Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Happy Tuesday night or Wednesday morning when you're listening to this. Uh, we are back for the Cross Commission podcast, episode 156. My name is Jake Nazar, uh, and I am joined this evening by two esteemed guests, two of the finest conversational lacrosse content analyzers in the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States. First, Ryan McDonald. Ryan, how are you this evening?
Doing well. It's funny because I'm going to be packing for a trip soon, and the theme of this episode is guys who don't have to pack up their stuff. More on that later. Getting like NHL free agency now, the coaching carousel. People don't want to move their stuff.
And next, I'm joined also by Saif Fakadu. Saif, how are you doing?
Boys, as a long Chelsea fan, I was happy to see them win out that cup.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
It's because I told you guys I went to their game in Philly with FC, and they got smoked. Absolutely. And it was funny because I went to talk to a colleague at work, and I said, I was talking about you guys. I was like, I always tell these guys I podcast with, I always say I'm going to get into soccer, but I just never really do. And I kind of gave that the social network line that Timberlake is like, I'm going to put my tie on this time and get there early. I was going to wake up in the morning and I was going to really fall. I did not know that. But anyway, I was like, you guys make fun of me. It's like I should root for Chelsea. I was like, that's part of the reason why I got the tickets for that game. But anyway, I was like, that would be the most fair, like the most Chelsea thing ever was like, and that game I flipped quick because I was like in the flamenco section, like in the lower bowl. I was like in the belly of the beast. It was crazy. It was like people were like standing like 4 or 3 to a chair. Like people just descended. It was like kind of madness, Ryan. I'm sure like you've been to Better enough or football games, and Jake, you as well. Like there's ushers. They won't even let you go to take a selfie, like unless you have a ticket for that section. And it was really kind of madness in Philly. But then I didn't really pay attention to the club come back. And I told you, I flipped quick because like they gave me a little scarf, and I was like, I'm a cheap date. I just started like going for people were trying to talk to me. I was like, I wish I could speak Portuguese to the fans. But it was a great time. Anyway, but then they win just yesterday. I barely even watched it. And I was like, oh, right on, we won. And I was like, that probably is the most Chelsea response I could give. Not pay attention after they lost and then claim the victory but thereafter. But I wanted your guys' thoughts on the club World Cup because I figured it was like, hey, let's get these foreign soccer players used to America in June. So because it's the first time I ever saw like hydration breaks. There was like multiple ones, like, and I was expecting to be like in and out, like that's soccer's big selling point, in and out like an hour and a half. But I thought it was kind of cool. I mean, I did watch some games, but I didn't watch the final that much. But just given the game, Sunday was loved. Your thoughts on the cup, Club Cup, World Cup, or whatever they call it, and I guess like thoughts of next year.
I really underestimated the amount of bit potential I could get out of texting my dad, who's a Liverpool fan, that we are champions of the world. And just like going the whole thing.
Correct.
I was on the phone with him yesterday, and I was doing the whole thing. I'm like, listen, you guys are champions of England, like declining empire, loss of stature.
The best part about this bit is that Jake and I can both say that we root for the champions of Europe, and we're still technically correct, even though neither one of them are the actual champions of Europe.
It's true. So I saw someone on, I think it was Blue Sky or whatever. It was like, it was a Tottenham fan who was like, we're going to beat PSG or whatever. And then they're like, well, what does that say considering Chelsea is beating them? And I'm like, it says that we're the best teams in the world. I just underestimated and the best thing, the kicker to the bit is that we only got in this tournament because we won the Champions League like 4 years ago. So, but I don't know. I mean, it's the atmospheres were pretty good when they stopped selling the tickets for $600 or whatever the hell.
It was a blatant cash grab tournament, but it actually kind of over delivered a bit, which is nice. I mean, we got the great content of Real Madrid losing to PSG again, which made me rediscover my love for El Chiringuito, the greatest sports talk show ever conceived.
And I thought, I mean, the Brazilian teams are really the fun part of it. I mean, they brought their fans, and they were it was kind of like a March Madness, sort of, I get in some ways, when you got some of the upsets. It was cool to see the big teams actually, like, because before when they do this Club World Cup, it used to just be they'd play like the European team would have to play like 2 games, and they just show up to like a weekend in Qatar or somewhere. So it was actually cool that they had to play some of the these other South American teams who are very good. They got a lot of good players. Obviously, good fans. I thought some of the weather thing was a little like. I mean, they played a World Cup in Germany in the summer before. It was pretty hot.
I was there. 06? Yeah, my cousin's wedding. It was like one of the most funny things. Definitely hot as hell.
Germany's
And
got
they don't have
United
air
States.
conditioning. They're just dying.
I remember it was one of the first games I watched. Beckham threw up on the sideline at the World Cup in Germany. One of the games.
Germany in the summer is United States weather. They have heat waves. They got tornadoes. It's
without the magic of air conditioning. That's it's like.
Yeah.
I remember when I went to the wedding.
That's a big point. I know, like,
I went to the wedding in
England
2023. They're like, "Oh, why don't you stay with us?" I was like, "I got the hotel said they have air conditioning where I'm staying. That's where I'm staying." It's 2020.
Yeah, people were passing out at Wimbledon, where it was 85 degrees out.
Yeah. So, that was the thing. Is like, listen, there's definitely some places in the U.S. where it gets too hot. I mean, and that's honestly, I figure they're just going to play the games that there's usually 3 games a day.
Yeah.
So
they might have to get 4 games a day though this go around because of.
I forgot. That's a bummer. I totally forgot about that.
48 teams.
48. So if they do 4 games a day, you can do what? It's a 2-hour broadcast, 2.5-hour broadcasting window, I guess.
You probably get a morning game in too for the European markets. So if you do it like a 10 a.m. game, it might not be as hot.
Yeah, do like 10 a.m., 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You have 2 games once the heat's gone down. I mean, look, I figure they're going to want lots of primetime broadcasting windows for a lot of the games. So, I mean, it's a challenge. But some of it was a little like there were games that were like 85 degrees, and it was like the players are watching the game on in the locker room, not on the sidelines. My God, come on, man! Like it's 85 degrees. it ain't that bad, like. Some games, yeah, I'm sure it was, but some of it was a little, all right, I don't know. Borussia Dortmund, like you guys are from Germany, like I'm sure, like you've played in hot weather before. Or I remember the World Cup in Brazil. They played the World Cup.
They played in the jungle. They played in the Amazon rainforest.
I remember the U.S. played Portugal in the freaking jungle. Yeah.
Now, granted, for most of Brazil, it's technically the winter when they had the World Cup, but it's not really that much of a difference when you're right that close to the equator. But
it's Brazil. It's hot.
But they literally had a venue in the middle of the Amazon.
That's crazy. That World Cup in Brazil was great vibes. Yeah, never gonna get that again. It's a shame. All right. Speaking of a place with a lot of vibes going on, and some, I think, potentially big feelings. St. Joe's head coach Taylor Wray. The last time we did a podcast, we talked about the Penn opening, and the timeline, who they might target, would it affect it? Turns out probably not. But we did do a pretty decent job, being safe, of breaking down who could be on the list. We did mention Taylor Wray, and we covered a lot of the other candidates who wound up being in the final search. And so Taylor Wray has left St. Joe's for the, 3 miles, even less, somewhere around there. Drive down from Hawk Hill to Penn, Franklin Field. Mike Murphy took over Penn in 2010 after Brian Volker literally just went across the street to Drexel. And they've replaced Mike Murphy by going a little bit further, maybe extra 10 minutes, and grabbing Taylor Wray from St. Joe's. So, gentlemen, I want to get your thoughts. Feelings, I think, are this is a different one, obviously, considering the geographical close nature of these schools. These schools play each other every year, pretty much, just about. We'll see if that continues. I figure they probably at least have a game in the bank as part of an agreement to play. for next year. Maybe not, but we'll see. If they do play, Taylor Wray will be coaching against many of the players he recruited and coached. When we reported on this, news became official last Tuesday. I want to say, or was that it? Yeah. Became official last Tuesday. We reported on Monday that Penn was zeroing in on Taylor Wray to be the head coach, and then it was confirmed Tuesday morning after they had a Zoom meeting. And there were a lot of St. Joe's people in our kind of replies and mentions on Twitter who were, I don't want to say, surprised was maybe the feeling, some shock as well. There were also some who were, I think we saw the kind of gamut of emotions. Surprise, both at him doing it, but also I think this might be the one sport where this type of move, because a lot of the fans, some of the fans we saw were kind of basketball fans. Obviously, there's the basketball between the schools. Within basketball, this is not exactly this would probably be seen as a lateral move, I think. I think in a lot of sports, going from St. Joe's to Penn is probably a lateral move. In lacrosse, particular men's lacrosse, I don't say there's anything against St. Joe's. I don't think it is. I think this is a move up the ladder for Taylor Wray. And I think that was part of the kind of surprise of it. There were some who were asking the administration of St. Joe's not let him get away. Understandable, but I'm not sure that was really possible financially with considering. Safe, what were the numbers that we saw when Penn posted the opening that they were mentioning, the salary range?
I believe, we found the job posting on PennJobs.com. 180 to 300. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what Taylor Wray was making at St. Joe's, and I don't know if Penn went up to 300,000, but 300,000 is pretty. That gets you in the realm of top 10-ish in the country. If they
that will get you a call back.
Oh,
yeah. 100%. I mean, for sure.
I think there was some who weren't surprised that Taylor Wray would leave, go to a different job, but there was like, well, hang on, it's different between obviously leaving and going to Penn. Worth noting that we talked about this when me and Safe did the pod. The Penn press release announcing Mike Murphy was let go was terse, to say the least. The St. Joe's press release announcing Taylor Wray left was pretty conciliatory. Not a lot of negative there. I didn't get it. I'll have to go check the Penn press release to see if Ray made any mention of St. Joe's in the press release. But I don't think this is a surprising move. Maybe surprised, not shocking is what I would say. It made sense that he would be on the list. It made sense that if Penn was really going for it, he was a candidate that could definitely be in the mix. It's as we talked about, upgrade in terms of salary more than likely. It's an upgrade in terms of access to the NCAA tournament, being in the Ivy League at Penn. It's a job at Penn that's made multiple NCAA quarterfinals within the last couple of years. St. Joe's, Taylor Wray did an incredible job at St. Joe's, and he meaningfully, without question, changed the direction of that program and that program's perception as a brand in college lacrosse. But he probably did upgrade here. However, it is still a rivalry. It's in city, intra-Philly move.
Yeah, it's inside Philly, not greater Philly. This is actual both schools in Philly, not Villanova.
It's across the street from the East Street.
So I will go to our Philly correspondent, Safe. Let's just start with immediate reactions. What's your kind of immediate take? You see the news that we got, about a week ago. It's probably they're targeting Taylor Wray. That's probably the move that's going to be. What were your thoughts?
Great journalism. Not to toot our own horn, but we nailed the story. Which always make sure it's true. That's our North Star. I was not surprised, but the amount of reaction, like I think it was probably one of our more visible tweets out there, and you could just see the visceral reaction from the St. Joe's fans, just being human, you kind of see just disappointment, like seeing somebody go, and not just go to like Duke or Hopkins, Maryland, Hughes, but 3 miles down the road to your what you perceive as a rival, inner city rival, Philly 5. There's a whole thing, especially those schools in like I wish Chris was here because he could echo this as much, if not better. There's a rivalry that goes back like generations. So just like the inner city, like the rivalries between and the animosities, like too pejorative. It's like there's heat. Like if you ever go to a Penn basketball game as a Philly 5, like it's packed, the basketball stadium, and like as well as Penn Lacrosse has been under Murphy, like Ray has also taken St. Joe's to similar heights, and pretty much you could almost say like he almost did as much as Ray did with maybe with as much Murphy did with like maybe less resources, just like consistently not making the tournament, but like consistently always being at the top of the conference and a couple of NCAA tournament appearances. Jake, just answer your question, not a direct St. Joe's reference in Ray's like press release, but definitely like a Love Philly type of. So I think he incorporated it in there. St. Joe's, his past. I thought, like, to me from the Penn angle, like it made sense. Like we had a great conversation about like who could Penn have gotten if this happened in May, June, the normal course of coaches being let go, and then goes like Penn essentially had all of May to think about this decision. Really, like from their last game type of thing. If they thought they were going to make a decision, maybe thought they would have just made it earlier, then maybe have a different pool. But the fact that they got Ray, I would say like, yeah, there's just like dream names. Like you love Tillman, right? You love Lars. Even Chamati to an extent. But I think what Chamati just did at Richmond maybe lets him have more leverage, and maybe he has eyes on other positions. But like, if you told a Penn men's lacrosse fan that, hey, in July your school's going to make kind of a sudden separation from a longtime coach, beloved coach from, and we're going to get you a guy of quality in July, middle of like recruiting season, you would think like I'll take that deal. And I think Ray is on the verge of what we're going to talk about, like these top 10 coaches. And I've kind of said like the guy that you kind of want, maybe he's not sick of where he's at, but just like maybe feels kind of topped out. And with Penn, different players, you can the reach, the facility, just the resources available. And I think that's an argument, maybe not an argument, but discussion maybe we can either table or talk about here. Like, I think that's going to be starting to be a conversation that coaches may have, because we kind of see like this mini exodus from Division I, at least at the assistant level, of like the overall landscape of colleges in general. And like maybe this also could have been like a institution move. Like St. Joe's isn't one of these that I kind of think like may have some trouble in the future. They have a somewhat healthy endowment, like compared to like others, $500 million, and like being in the cities, it helps it. But like, I think if you're kind of a coach out there, you're thinking like, if I'm at a smallish private liberal arts school and I can move to a school that plays in a power conference, and that is what the Ivy is, it's a good move, And again, no distract. I love St. Joe's. I just want St. Joe's, it's a cool school and the great people. But I just meant like, if you're Penn, you're like, we can get a guy that's a solid pair of hands that we kind of know. We've played against them over years. He knows his area. Maybe he can level us up a little, younger. Maybe like just gives us that new dynamic to kind of see the shit that's going on in the Ivy, that teams are making changes, and he's not as young as Kerwin or Busick, but Ray's still a pretty young guy, relative to the coaching landscape. And we can get a guy who's got a name recognition that can, at this point in time, I think it's a win for Penn. And like, again, for Ray, I don't want to put words in his mouth or whatever, but I think like, yeah, that's kind of an opportunity you can't pass. That these jobs, Jake, we say that don't come often. And one of the funniest things I think both of you said, but I think Jake, you may say, if you get a job and you don't have to move your stuff, even better. a job that's great, that has the resources of Penn. Again, I'm not trying to diss St. Joe's. Me talking about Penn's not like dissing St. Joe's, but it's just like, yeah, and it's in the same kind of city, and it's just like kind of one of these seats at a table that may not have been available in the near future if it's not now. So like I said, for Penn, I think it's a coup. It's a major win at this point in time. That's what we said. Like we could have gotten in, May, June, like normal times. Like or now, like maybe different discussion. But they got the guy that I think, even if they were able to swoop him away in late May, early June, that was still going to win then. So if you can get the guy that's like a win then and a win now, like you got to make that move. And like I said, for Ray, like I think for him career wise, kind of smart. Got to make that move. I got a couple other dudes that I thought that would also make it, but I was like, yeah, when we were discussing, I was like, yeah, Ray makes a ton of sense. And cheers to Penn for being able to pull that off in July. So I mean, he was literally at a recruiting thing with St. Louis. I think like around the time we broke the news, or like right, I don't know when at the time, but it's been like it was all it's middle recruiting season, July, stuff like that. To get a name of that note, and it seems pretty seamless. From the time they kind of separated from Murphy to when they got Ray, it's essentially our last episode. So being able to do that with two and a half weeks over kind of like 4th of July weekend, like. Shout out to Alana Wray, Alana Wren, the director of athletics and recreation at Penn. Not only she's a hitter, but she can also get good candidates pretty quickly. So shout out to Miss Wren.
Yeah, and I think Yeah, sorry, Jake.
No, just your thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah. So safe. Yeah. To jump upon your point too, about knowing the area, I think is why this is nice and savvy for Penn. Obviously, Ivy recruiting is a different beast because you got to get guys that are going to be eligible to attend the university outright and all that. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. But if you got a guy who's coached and built up a program in your city in Philadelphia, so it's the same city, knows the area, is targeting the recruits in the surrounding area, that's going to be a big boon for Penn. And again, different animal when you're recruiting in the Ivy League compared to the A10, just because of those requirements. But this move makes a lot of sense for Penn. You get a guy whose program built very nicely in the same city you are in with Philadelphia. He knows the landscape of the recruiting battlegrounds that these Philly schools are all competing for recruits in. And it also shows that Penn is not taking this downturn a little bit that they've had as a program lightly. They've seen Cornell and Princeton level up. They've seen Harvard start to build themselves up. They know that Yale's not going to be down forever if they, given the track record they've had lately. So I think this is a very keen move for Penn, and it, at the very least, is showing a sign that, hey, we're not going to be making men's lacrosse an afterthought here. Yeah, the Ivy League's leveled up, but we're not going down just because other teams are going up. So I think this is a very good move for Penn. We'll talk about the St. Joe's aspect of it in a little bit with their coaching moves. But I think for Penn, this move makes a lot of sense. I think in one sense, I guess in a sense, the safe move's the right move. You go with the guy from your city and has proven that he's one of the best mid-major coaches. So why not latch onto him, see how he does at a major program like yours? And at the very least, even if it falls flat in the next couple of years, you made a good effort out of it, I think. So I think this is definitely a good move for Penn, and I think it definitely shows that they want to remain in the mix as Ivy League lacrosse contenders. So I think very smart move for Penn. I think for Ray, obviously, as Safe was saying too, this helps him get into a bigger position. He did a wonderful job at St. Joe's. And now we get to see him have the keys to that next step of a program in terms of commitment and resources. So it's going to be very fascinating to see, and to see if Penn could get back into that mix of Ivy League contendership.
Yeah, I think that this strikes me as a very high floor type of move. I think you could have gone for a different name and maybe taken on more risk. I think of maybe like Jim Mitchell at Princeton, who was one of the final names who interviewed. I think you maybe could have taken on someone like that, an assistant, or maybe Jesse Bernhardt at Maryland, and maybe see if you strike gold at like you found the next great kind of coach. If in Mitchell's case, he's in the league, so he knows the type of players you're recruiting. I have a hard time seeing Taylor Wray failing at Penn. And it's honestly not for the location reasons, because that's probably the one thing that I think just makes me question this a little bit. Penn and St. Joe's are in the same city. That's about the only thing they have in common. Otherwise, they're very different schools, and there's probably not a lot of guys that Taylor Wray was recruiting at St. Joe's who are also considering Penn. You're in two different living rooms when you're making the sales pitch at Penn compared to St. Joe's. Does that mean Taylor Wray cannot make that sales pitch? No. Taylor Wray did go to Duke, worth noting. So he's, kind of been accustomed to that. Like, again, it's a different type of pitch at these different schools. And by no means doesn't mean he cannot make that pitch. It's just different. That makes me wonder a little bit. I think that the rosters he'll build will be different. I think the style of play might be a little different. Though it could be the same. At St. Joe's, he took a very aggressive. They were very aggressive, 10-man ride, things like that. Building a program in a type of way that you would if you were an underdog, or if you had, and especially when you consider where that program was when he took over, it made a lot of sense. St. Joe's won 0 games the year before Taylor Wray took the job. And that kind of tells you everything. At Penn, it's a little different, but you can make the argument, and we kind of saw this with Mike Murphy at Penn a bit. They weren't always in the same class as Penn or Princeton or Cornell or Yale. And so they sometimes zagged a little bit, where others zigged. I think it's different. It'll be different building the program, roster construction, things like that. What I don't have any doubt about is that Taylor Wray can coach lacrosse. As I just mentioned, St. Joe's has been a program since 1993. So Taylor Wray took the job in 2012. So that's 19 seasons before he took over. In those 19 seasons, the St. Joe's had 2 winning seasons. 2 out of 19. They won a conference tournament championship or conference regular season championship. One conference championship in 2000. They won the MAC. Other than that, you look at the last 11 years before he took over: 5 wins, 4 wins, 6 wins, 4 wins, 3, 6, 6, 4, 6, 3, and 0. By the time he took over, within 4 years, he had won 11 games and won a conference title. Then he won 11 games and won another conference title. And then he won 12 games, won another conference title. Regular season, that is. And within the last 5 years, St. Joe's won 54 games. And, of course, made the first 2 NCAA tournament appearances in school history. So Taylor Wray's acumen as far as coaching lacrosse is really not by any means in question here. The dude can coach. On the field, the dude can coach. He'll go in the Ivy League, and Safe mentioned it, when you're thinking of where you put him with other coaches in the country. I think on the field, he's right up. And within that conference, I think he's probably right up there. as far as what he can do, tactically on the field. So I have a hard time seeing this outright fail. Like, I don't think we're going to be in a situation here in like 40 years where it's like, man, they got to make a change again. I think the question is, we talked about this on the pod last time. What is Penn looking for? If you look at the last, let's say at Penn, the last 4 years, obviously this year things fell off pretty considerably, and they had a bad season. But within this past 4-year period, Penn did win an Ivy League tournament title and make the quarterfinals in 2022. They had 3 winning seasons from 22 to 24. They were the last team out of the tournament, or kind of like in that bubble mix in both 24 and 23. Probably the last team out in 2024. So they were in the Ivy League tournament in all 3 of those years, 22, 23, and 24. So, and if you want to extend it back even further to 2019, which is Mike Murphy's best team, they were within a goal of going to the Final Four. So within the last 5 years, Penn's made 2 quarterfinals, and they won two Ivy League tournament championships and an Ivy League regular season championship as well. Is Taylor Wray going to do better than that? Mike Murphy was at Penn for he made his first NCAA tournament in 2011. That's 4 NCAA tournament appearances out of 13. Does Taylor Wray do better than that? That's 3 Ivy League tournament championships in about a 10-year span. Mike Murphy do better than that. 2 quarterfinals. So now we also talked about, was it maybe not a move about what Mike Murphy had done, but what was going to happen? Had maybe they felt that Mike Murphy had peaked and they weren't confident about the direction of the program for the rest of the decade. But that's where Penn has been there's 4 more years in the 2020s. In the 2020s to this point, that we've seen Penn make 1 NCAA tournament, make 3 Ivy League tournaments and a quarterfinal, and be in the mix for the NCAA tournament every year except for this past one. So, Ryan, I'll throw it back to you. Over the next 4 years, do we think Taylor Wray at Penn does about the same as what Mike Murphy had done? Does he do a little worse, or does he meaningfully improve upon these results?
I'm going to say a little worse, and I think that's because of where Cornell, Princeton, and Harvard have positioned themselves. I think it says more about how the rest of the Ivy League has developed compared to where Penn is. And I think that's going to be kind of the challenge that Ray's going to have to face, is that Penn's no longer at or above the level of some of those teams in the Ivy League. You think of the late 2010s, before COVID shut everything down. Penn was basically competing directly with Yale for these Ivy League titles. Now you got Cornell coming off a national championship. You got Princeton as a perennial contender now. You got Harvard becoming much better program now with what Byrne's been able to develop there. So you got a bit of an uphill challenge here. I don't think they're going to have too much issues with Ivy League tournaments. I think what we're looking at here in the next couple of years is them and Yale are probably going to be fighting for that 4th and final spot. No disrespect to Brown or Dartmouth in that case. I mean, though Dartmouth could be a dark horse for a 4 seed in the next year or 2. But I think it's less about Penn and more so about who they're surrounded with, that I think they might not be able to match that 2022 to 2024 stretch, only because the teams that surround them have leveled up that much in that period.
Safe? What do you think?
I do think he can do a little better, just because, Murphy, a lot of success at Penn. We don't say relative to the lack of success that the program had before he got there. But, he got to the tournament on the cusp of a Final Four. I think that 2019 season just robbed just the fates of the tournament selection committee gods of like putting them in Yale. That that could have been a Final Four appearance, but it's if you do kind of look at the run, like it's not that many like just strong regular seasons. There's a lot of 8 and 7s in there, 7 and 6s.
To be fair, I'll just count this real quick. Mike Murphy will make the argument that a lot of those 8 and 7s are influenced by the schedules that they played. Top 5 strength of schedule year in, year out. We'll see if Ray continues with that. I mean, St. Joe's schedule pretty good with him, but it was hard to squeeze more out of the strength of schedule quotient than Penn did, which is that would be a positive argument if you would like of 8 and 7, as you would say, hard.
It's very much a hard 8 and 7 for sure, and all the respect in the world for playing a top level, but it's not. Penn is blessed geographically that they don't have to beg teams to play them, and they don't really have to, even if they're going to be ongoing away. Then maybe they can't get everyone to come to Franklin Field. They can get Georgetown. I think that did Maryland go to Penn?
There was a period there where Penn and Maryland play each other. I don't know if Maryland went to Penn.
Maybe it was like 2-1 thing or 3-1. Yes, but at least they could play. You can get them on the schedule, whether or not you're at Franklin Field or playing away. People want to play Penn because we've talked about this ad nauseum. Teams on your team want to play in front of their home fans. People where they grew up in, and it's a recruiting, so you want to play Penn and you want to be in Penn. So like maybe just tweaking it like one less top 8 opponent, maybe make a couple more tournaments in there. They just tweak around with the schedule. Like you can't have it both ways. Like I was hamstrung because of the schedule, but then also like look who I'm playing. Not that you would make that argument. Actually, I want to make sure that.
No, you're right. I think. Go ahead, finish your point.
No. My main thing is just like hard 8 and 7, good, tough schedule for sure. But maybe Ray just takes a little bit of a different angle and maybe tweaks the schedule, like knows, hey, people still want to play us. We change the schedule. And now you got like more 9 and 5s, 10 and 4s, 11 and 4. And I think somebody who would Ray, like, again, I give Murphy all the credit. Penn was kind of a more bound program and, turn it to respectability. But like what Ray did for St. Joe's, like, St. Joe's had more 0-win seasons than they did double-digit win seasons in all pre-Ray. Like, and tons of like 3-4 win seasons, and like turned literally a culture around, and just we're a perennial winner. Kind of like imprinted that into them. And even the years we've said, even the years where they had like the entire senior class, like a loaded senior class, like the worst, that 5 and 9 season was a bad season in 2017. But like his only other worst season was 7 and 7. Every other thing was like won the tournament and like 11 wins. Like it's Ray's a winner. So like I just think I think if I'm not mistaken, his record against Penn is 4 and 6, and like 4 of those losses were like overtime or 1 goal. So like he's like played them toe to toe with what he's had, and I think if you're a Penn alum, you're like, hey, got a bit more resources, more flexibility scheduling, just a power conference. Let's see what you can do. Throw him the whip. Give him the keys to the whip. Like I think like Ray, maybe it's just like vibes. Like I kind of feel a little bit like the Madeline thing. I was like, it seems like it works. Like this guy, like whatever happened with Bates, we know that's history, but like seems to be doing well in offense. Continuity. And they flourish. And I just get that same vibe with Ray. I just feel like he's a winner. Like, yeah, Jake, you make some valid points about like different rooms you're going to be talking, different living rooms you're going to be talking to, and different recruits you're going to be like maybe like targeted or limited to. I don't know what Penn does. Maybe they just like go win. Maybe like they like Princeton Till Tierney. Who do you want? We'll get him in here if you. But like I said, I think there's like it's still that pipeline of Lacrosse to Wall Street, and I think Penn having Wharton there is like a natural attraction for people who are looking to get on that pipeline. And if Ray can just get, like I said, he doesn't need to get every grant amendment. But if there's a grant amendment in, those power like high schools right in the area, Penn needs to get their share. And I just feel like maybe with a winning, but the new coach, maybe a little bit different, philosophy or whatever, what he got, where he wants to take this program. I think Penn is going to do better with it.
So, how many NCAA tournaments in the next 4 years?
I could see. I'll go 2.
One. I feel 2 is like a reasonable. Like,
well, no, I just think I don't think 1 is bad, but then 1's the same amount Murphy made in the last 4 years.
I hear it, but I think he's going to have stronger regular. I think you're going to get more double-digit wins out of it.
I might get more double-digit win seasons. I don't think that means they're going to make the NCAA tournament.
If you beat Princeton,
is he going to take that? To me, is the question with this. Penn making this move to me says we have higher aspirations. I got no Taylor Wray is a winner, 100%. Like he's a great lacrosse coach, but Mike Murphy had Penn in the mix for the NCAA tournament, even when they won 8-7. Now, the reason for that was because of the schedule they played. If Taylor Wray, I'm not saying he's going to do this, but if he schedules a little worse, but he wins 2 more games, I don't think that's going to meaningfully change Penn's NCAA tournament hopes. I think what meaningfully change, I 100% could see Taylor Wray go 10-5 instead of 8-7. If your 10-5 is still 3rd in the Ivy League, I don't know that that's getting you in the tournament. And so that to me comes what gets them into the tournament is, can they improve their fortunes against Cornell and Princeton? Or can they get back above Harvard in the pecking order? And I'm not saying he can't do that. But I think that I agree. Taylor Wray probably will have a better regular season win total than Mike Murphy at Penn. I don't know that it actually results in more NCAA tournament appearances. Because what was getting Penn in the mix for those appearances was the way that Mike Murphy was gaming the RPI and the strength of schedule. No one did that better than Mike Murphy did. That was his superpower, was that he knew exactly what they needed out of this. And look, it's fair to say they didn't win enough games to make it count. Oftentimes, a lot of times it was first team out or second team or third team out, whatever it might be. I think for them, what actually is going to have to be the key here is, what are you doing within the Ivy League against Cornell and Princeton? And we'll see if Harvard continues on the track that they're going at, and we'll see if Yale can get this thing back on track going forward. Like Penn missed the NCAA tournament in 2024. In the non-conference, they still beat Duke, and they beat Albany, who made the tournament, and they also beat Cornell in 2024. They beat Cornell twice in 2024, in fact, and missed the tournament. In 2023, they went 7-6. They beat Georgetown in the non-conference. 2022, that was the year they made the quarterfinals. They beat Duke and Penn State. So, I think if the question is, you ask me, is Taylor Wray going to win more games than Mike Murphy? Probably. But I don't think that's what Penn's looking for. I think they're looking for quarterfinal appearances, maybe even Final Fours. And for that, I think it's, are you going to be knocking the doorstep of Cornell and Princeton more often? Now, do I think he can do that? I think he could. But that's a tough task, considering the way those programs are humming right now.
Murphy was essentially 20% at the tournament, right? 3 times out of 14 seasons.
He was there 13 years and made it 25. He was there because you take out 2020, 2021, those years.
Yeah, I thought I took those out. It was 14.
So out of 14 years, he made it 4 times. That's 28.5%. So over the long haul, does Ray make it 1 out of 3?
Out of the next 3, right?
No, I think are they going to do better over the next couple of years? I'm not sure. Over the long haul, maybe. And also, look, I think it's worth saying. I think you could, if you argue to me, here's what I will say. I think Taylor Ray's next 4 years of Penn are going to be better than Mike Murphy's were. Like I think Murphy had maxed out. I think it was probably it. So I think if they had kept on this course, I think they were probably going down, and I don't think Taylor Ray is going to go down. I think he'll get them. I think they'll probably be back at like 500 next year, and maybe in that mix for the last spot in the Ivy League tournament, 4th. But so I think Taylor Ray will make the NCAA tournament more often probably in the next 4 years than Mike Murphy would have. But will it be better than what their last 5 years was? That's where I'm not sure. Now, over the long haul, though, does he make it 1 out of 3? That would be better. Does he make a Final Four?
We'll see. Yeah, that's going to be the interesting question with how college athletics are heading. That's going to be the $1 million question, I guess, is, well, are the ACC and Big Ten schools going to be way ahead of everybody? Is Penn going to be all right if they're spending at Cornell and Princeton levels? Or
probably more money than Cornell does.
Yeah, so that's going to be the interesting thing to see. I agree. I think if Penn sees this out as a long-term move, this is going to work out well for them. If they're doing this to quickly turn the ship around, I honestly couldn't tell you at this juncture.
To answer your questions, will the ACC and Big Ten be ahead of like everyone else? At the rate things are going, they're ahead. Are they? If in the 2010s, the difference between the ACC and the Big East and Patriot League, and everyone was like, those schools were driving a Mercedes and the other ones were driving a Hyundai. I think we're getting into the range where those schools are driving Porsches and Ferraris, and the other schools are still driving Hyundais.
Mm-hmm. But the Ivy League has shown, at least in this stretch, that they're keeping pace with the ACC and the Big Ten.
Yes, the Ivy League just has a different. They have different tools at their disposal. With people are going to want to go to Wharton, people want to go to Princeton or Harvard. I think the Ivy League has a chance to keep pace. Can they keep pace? I don't know. But everyone else, I think, is in a little bit more of a pickle.
Programs and the institutions themselves, right? I mean, like,
yeah, no one knows what this House settlement is going to mean.
We're probably going to have to wait a year or two to see what tangible effects it's actually doing.
But I just meant like schools are in deep financial problems. I think a lot.
Oh yeah, well that's
as institutions.
That could be its own podcast.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I wonder what the next 5-10 years is just going to be in this landscape. Like maybe I could definitely see the future of like really only like 60 teams, and maybe that's to the benefit of the big Ivy and ACC. But I think it's like
there's. I think we're more likely to go. If people thought the future of college lacrosse was more parity, and I think the access will probably be the same, but if people envisioned a future of the college lacrosse in which it was a much more fractured like landscape in terms of teams that are involved or parity, etc., I think you are much more likely to go back to what things looked like in the 2000s.
If we're not already there. I mean, since COVID, Denver's been the only non-ACC, Big Ten, or Ivy team to make the Final Four.
There you go.
And Denver puts a lot of resources into lacrosse anyway. So,
and even them, like I don't know if and again, like Corrigan had a good quote about the House settlement thing, where he was like, it will beg the question, why weren't you spending this much money before? Which I think does, like, I think that does show you, like, I don't know if we talk about this in the pod, like, yeah, hypothetically, sure, Johns Hopkins could spend $20 million on lacrosse in the house. Are they going to do that? No, that's not going to happen. But I can tell you already that there are, and this is just not like this job too, the top 2 or 3 schools in like the ACC, for instance, are already funding like double 12.5 scholarships. So if those schools are funding 26 scholarships, like if you're Villanova, like it's just a different, if you're, I mean, great examples, probably if you're Loyola. Loyola was punched right with these schools in the 2010s. And in the late 90s too. I mean, to a degree as well. Like, much different landscape now. So
St. Joe's, yeah.
I think we're all in agreement. Penn made a good hire here, I think, all things considered. Will they hit the jackpot with it? We'll see. I don't think any of us expect it's going to fail. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, and track if they can make a leap forward. Again, an Ivy League that is getting tougher. St. Joe's. So when I heard this news, I mean, listen, we all have our, obviously, fan allegiances and biases here. Other than that, like, I wasn't invested in this coaching search and sort of like that. I mean, if Penn is good, that's fantastic. If they're not good, I mean, as Safe says, we just want to see good games. But there was part of me that was a little bummed, in a sense. Bum's our word. I took a moment. There were moments where I thought about St. Joe's, because Taylor Wray made St. Joe's into a program that was relevant on the national scene, and that was a brand that had become they left their imprint on the seasons. They become part of the fabric of college lacrosse seasons. I'll never forget that 2022, when they won so they were still in the NEC at that point, I think, right? And they won the conference tournament championship game after how many years, and how many conference tournament championship games that they had lost, and finally got to the NCAA tournament. And they dogpiled on the field after winning the conference tournament. And I'll never forget that scene. And Ray made them into a program that, like, we associate, like, you think of, as Ryan's point, teams outside of the ACC, the Big Ten, the Ivy League. They're one of those programs that you think about. And again, like, they're not a Georgetown or a Denver. But, like, when you think of Richmond, you think of St. Joe's, you think of Towson, you think of Albany. Like, Ray put St. Joe's into that tier, and he made them a player and a relevant team that could play with some of the upper echelon teams, could beat Penn, as we talked about, or play them many close games. They played Yale in the NCAA tournament a couple years ago, and that was a close one, down to the wire. And I think Penn was going to hire a good coach either way, based on the list for Penn, by the way. The final Ray there were 7 candidates that got interviews. All of those were from the list that we kind of, floated out there. BU head coach Ryan Poley, both Notre Dame assistants Ryan Wilner and Chris Wojcik, Jesse Bernhardt, Kevin Cassis, and Jim Mitchell. So that was the final that they got interviewed, and Ray got the job from there. If they hired any of those coaches, I would have said, hey, that's a pretty good hire. But St. Joe's from here, I don't know. And that doesn't say anything about Scott Meehan, who the offensive coordinator who's been promoted to head coach. St. Joe's had some awesome offenses, man, the last couple of years. They've put the ball in the back of the cage. They've developed talent super well. You talked about, they've lost some big offensive names and kept on humming. So I like the way St. Joe's plays. Like, I like Scott Meehan. I think he's a good coach. But man, like, it's going to be, if we talk about, like, are we sure that what are the odds of Penn or Ray at Penn doing meaningfully better than Murphy, or is it going to be about the same? Man, like, what are the odds that St. Joe's replicates the last 5 years they just had? I don't know, man. And I hope so. Again, like, they've won NEC regular season in 2021, NEC regular season and tournament in 2022, A10 regular season. There was a period of time, guys, like from 21 to 24, where St. Joe's went 25-0 in conference games. That's nuts. What Ray was doing. And I don't know, it's kind of, you want those teams, you want teams like that. You need teams like that in the sport who matter at every level. And they were one of those who at their level, they really were a fixture. And when you lose a coach like Ray, I don't know if that's going to continue. I hope it does, but that's kind of the feeling was I hope we, one, appreciate what St. Joe's been able to do the last 10 years. And two, I do hope that it continues. And look, the A10 dimension, adding Delaware to the A10.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is it's only going to get tougher where you got Richmond where they are now, and then you're adding Delaware to the mix too. So that monster of a conference is only becoming a bigger monster next year.
Still got UMass in there. That's a program that's been into the tournaments. High Point, new head coach Crawley. Hobart's got a new head coach. So I mean, a lot of turnover in the A10 outside of Richmond.
St. Bonaventure, new coach too.
There you go. So
a lot of new coaches in the A10.
St. Bonaventure. So what is this? Three teams in the A10 changing coaches this year. 4 in the last 2 years. That's a lot. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I think Scott Mead's a good coach. I think it's much different on this sort of timeline for St. Joe's. And Penn still had a lot we thought that they could offer. Big salary. In terms of Ray, didn't have to move his stuff. Ivy League. St. Joe's, it's a lot tougher to get one of those like Notre Dame or Maryland assistants to be like, yeah, sure, I'll leave in July 15th. Again, on a normal timeline, St. Joe's is the one who I think it wound up the timeline really affected. Because I think that's not to say they wouldn't have hired Scummy anyway. But I do think on a normal timeline, St. Joe's maybe could do a search. But in this case, they can't. So we'll see. But that's kind of was my thought is I just St. Joe's has been a program that really is, again, left they left their mark on College Lacrosse within the last 10 years. And I hope that at least they can stay in the mix in the A10. Any other thoughts?
It was difficult. No, I mean, I think everything. I have nothing against me-handed guy at all. Like you could say, he helped, at least recent success the regular just being part of the staff. But yeah, it's just I think like with Ray, just it wasn't like Chamati at Richmond, like he left the program started literally under him, but it was almost like a reborn. Like it just kind of was like a more about program in a town rich area. He's able to turn it into something. Those games, even the ones that they lost to those, every time we were watching those conference tournament games, especially when they were at NEC, like there were a lot of fans there. Like you could see, they really kind of fell in love with this team. Like the heartache of like repeatedly losing at the tournament, conference tournament, despite like having such great success in the regular season, year in year out. And then as Jake, you aptly pointed out that it's just the eruption of emotion when they finally did make it. It was a great moment for obviously St. Joe's fans, but even us, for national look at that. This small program in Philly, or right outside of Philly, is what I would say, still has kind of that core essence of the game. Just a bunch of people kind of like Lacrosse really started following this team and had great success. They finally got that mountain, for being able to get to the tournament. Yeah. Can you recapture that with another coach? Sure, it's possible. It's just maybe not that bit of lightning. in a model that they got under Ray. Maybe hard to duplicate immediately.
Here's the stat for you. I'll leave you on this. Since 2014, so this is 11 seasons, St. Joe's lost 11 conference games. That's one conference loss per season for over a decade. So basically, for over a decade, St. Joe's was either first or second in their league. They finished first 8 times in 11 years. And then they finished third one this year, and they finished 5th twice in 2017 and 2019. For a decade, this team was winning their conference right there. That's for a program at that level, that is as good as you can ask for. We'll ask ourselves, can St. Joe's continue this run? Nobody could possibly do any better at St. Joe's than what. I mean, maybe you could say they could have won some more NEC or A10 championships. They went 2-4, but I mean, still,
that level of consistency.
2-4 ain't bad either. It's still 2 instant return appearances. You flip one of them, that's pretty remarkable. So we'll see how it goes. And I hope the St. Joe's fans who are where is that game at? If they do play,
last year's was at Franklin Field, so it would be at St. Joe's.
So to the St. Joe's fans out there, if they're listening to this, I hope you continue to support the team, and I hope you really turn out if Penn shows up to Hawkhill next year.
It's gonna be nuts.
I hope that game gets the environment it deserves.
Ray should do like a Lars. Went back to Brown. Like that would be liquored up in the stands. It was just like the mind game.
That was a nutty environment. Holy crap!
That was a great environment. That was one of the best in years. Speaking of Lars, on the topic, Ryan, you have one more point?
Yeah, one other quick news note. We could celebrate no more Big East lacrosse on Flow Sports.
Yeah, true.
Big East announced that they are moving their streaming options to ESPN. No word on how many linear games. I would assume the token Denver game and the Big East championship. But
it said.
Or do they still have the Fox component of it?
Yes, but they never really aired games on Fox anyway.
Yeah, just the Big East championship.
All their Olympics, the Big East championship was on CBS Sports Network.
Oh, that's right. It was on CBS Sports Network. But either way, no more Flow Sports. No more having to pay up the wazoo for that. Hopefully that means no mid-co for the Denver non-conference home games either.
So, yes, this is great, and I hope it means more Big East teams get kind of, people. Listen, I don't blame anyone who didn't subscribe to Flow. Like, that was just an abomination. The way it was phrased, talked about, made it seem like it might just be online only. Which would be, we'll see. I mean, maybe the Big East tournament will be. I figured they'd have a spot for it still because
they put the NAAC championship on ESPNU. So
the Big East is Thursday night.
And the bulk of their inventory is the Sunday championships. They got the ACC and Ivy are on the Friday, Sunday.
So Thursday, I don't know what else to be airing on Thursday night in late April. So I hope that they can get. Obviously, I do hope for Big East games on. If they can get some games that are on TV. I think this is 100%. This is a longer discussion, off-season type combo, but I 100% think the perception of the Ivy League has been affected by the fact no one actually sees their games. There is a component of a lacrosse fan who only watches the games on TV. And that makes sense. Like there's a group of who only watches if it's on ESPNU. And if you only watch if it's on ESPNU, you see ACC teams and sometimes Big Ten teams. And I do think, and of course the Big Ten has BTN. I do think that's 100% a factor in the way people view the Ivy League is that these teams just don't get on TV. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, I've listened to podcasts with people who actually are paid to cover the sport who claim they haven't seen Ivy League games in several years. Which is like, all right then. It's a little interesting. It's on ESPN.
Put that Cornell Princeton game on ESPN too. If you don't get the dues, that's on you.
But we'll see. Yeah, hopefully we see that. Connor Schellenberg is going back to Virginia.
Yep.
No eligibility, but
Yeah, a lot of alums coming back to their schools for assistant coach moves this week. I think Delaware announced one. Michigan is
No,
getting.
Rutgers hired Scott Bita from Michigan. To be
But Michigan got Corrigan's son.
But Will Corrigan went to Notre Dame.
Just promoted him.
Villanova hired Simon Connor left Villanova. He'd been offensive coordinator there for a long time. He had the pipeline at Del Barton that got a lot of talent. The Curse and some other big names to Figueroas to Villanova. Villanova hired Paul Mida. I'm not sure. Who was a Villanova alum to be their offensive coordinator to replace Simon Connor. So, all right. Any other notes?
Got it for now.
That's about it. Jared Bernhardt's going to Florida. So
Gainesville.
Indeed.
Does he get a complimentary pair of jorts for going to Gainesville?
You have to ask him. He's a Florida guy. But I don't know. All right. It's time for part 2 of this program. This one I think is going to be pretty fun. So this topic suggestion came from our good pal Mark Hart at Fieldy Stick on Twitter, does the bracketology. He suggested that we try and, because this is sometimes something that we, him and I have bandied about in the DMs the last couple of years. We're going to come up with a collective cross-commission ranking of the top 10 coaches in men's Division I college lacrosse. Here are the sort of ground rules, kind of how this process is going to work. We are ranking active coaches. We are ranking them based on who we think are the top 10 coaches right now as of July 15th, 2025. So this does / can include a coach's overall body of work. It can include, you can take into account stuff they've done over the course of their career. However, again, we're not doing necessarily what are the coaches with the 10 best resumes in college lacrosse. We're doing who do we think are the 10 best coaches in college lacrosse as of right now, July 15th, 2015. Each of us has prepared a top 10 list that we are going to unveil. There's no requirements here. You don't have to include certain coaches based on whatever. It's just ours, and you are kind of free to grade on your own criteria. However you evaluate coaches, we were free to come up with these lists based off that. And we each have our own top 10 list. The fun part is none of us know each other's list. So I have no clue who Ryan ranked number 1 or number 10. I have no clue who Safe ranked 1 through 5, 6 to 10, whatever. I have some suspicions, but no idea. We are each going to find out each other's list right now. And once we've done that, we're going to collectively come up with our own top 10 list. All right. Fellas, any questions?
So wait, are you writing them down and then we're aggregating them to the final top 10?
So I can write down all of our 10, but then we're going to collectively agree upon. So we're going to, debate, discuss, banter, and come up with it. So I have my list, but yes, I can tabulate everyone's list. All right, who would like to go first?
Okay, let's get the ball
All
going.
right. Do we want to go from 10 to 1?
I can do that.
All right, I think that sounds fun. All right, Safe, your top 10 coaches in Division I men's college lacrosse right now, starting at number 10.
Starting at number 10 and strong 10. Joe Albrisi from Army.
Okay.
My man. Matt Madeline, Princeton, number 9.
Okay.
Kevin Warren, also my man, at number 8. Dan Chamati at number 7. I'm going to be cute here. And the number 4 spot is filled with Lars Tiffany, Virginia, Kevin Corrigan, and Notre Dame, John Danowski. I'll tie at number 4.
I want it broken up.
All right. That was his Dano 5, Dano 6.
Okay.
Corrigan 5. Lars 4. Jeff Tambroni 3.
Okay.
CV Connor 2. And the number 1 man, the man, John Tillman.
All right. So Safe's list, I'll go over it again. Safe has Joe Alberici of Army at 10, Matt Madeline of Princeton at 9, Kevin Warren of Georgetown at 8, Dan Chamati of Richmond at 7, John Danowski of Duke at 6, Kevin Corrigan of Notre Dame at 5, Lars Tiffany of Virginia at 4, Jeff Tambroni of Penn State at 3, Connor Busick of Cornell at 2, and John Tillman of Maryland at number 1.
You know what? Game time revision. Corrigan 3, Tams 4, Lars 5.
Okay. Kevin Corrigan 3, Tams 4?
Yeah.
Lars, okay. Jeff Tambroni 4, Lars Tiffany 5. All right. So Tillman 1, Busick 2, Corrigan 3, Tams 4, Lars Tiffany 5, John Danowski 6, Dan Chamati 7, Kevin Warren 8, Matt Madeline 9, Joe Alberici 10 for Safe Fakadu. All right. Ryan, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next.
Okay.
10, I was debating between 2 coaches, Jerry Byrne at Harvard and Andy Shea at Yale. I know Yale's fallen on some tough times, but I think Andy Shea's body of work keeps him at 10. So I'll go Shea at 10. I got Warren at 9. Chamati at 8. Madeline 7. I have Tambroni at 6. Touchdown John Danowski at 5, despite Duke looking like they're having a bit of a downturn again. I think that's a big body of work case with Danowski there, so he stays top 5. Buszczyk I have at 4. Not a lot of years to go with it, but already got a natty and another Final Four to go with it, so I put him at 4. Corrigan, we're only a year removed from him winning back-to-back titles, and Notre Dame's recruiting still humming at 3. Lars Tiffany stays at 2 for me because, again, body of work, what he's done from 2019 onward. This was only the second Final Four that Virginia missed since 2019, so I'll keep Tiffany at 2, though that one might have some movement next year or two. And then Tillman at 1.
All right. So Ryan has Andy Shea at 10. Andy Shea was not on Safe's list. He has Kevin Warren at 9, Dan Chamati at 8, Matt Madeline at 7. All those guys were. Jeff Tambroni at 6, John Danowski 5, Connor Busick 4, Kevin Corrigan 3, Lars Tiffany 2, and John Tillman number 1. Some overlap there. All right. I have the bulk of our lists are all very similar. I think it's really just our number 10 spot that is changed, and then it's kind of the order. All right, 10, I considered a lot of different names. Sean Adelin, Scott Marr, Peter Milliman, I think about Joe Alberici, Gary Gate to just make a Final Four. There are 3 active national championship coaches that I did not include. I did not include Andy Shea. None of us included Joe Bresci or Charlie Toomey, who both won national championships. I will say this: if we had done this program 4 years ago, I think both of those guys would probably have shown up, and I would have Charlie Toomey like within the top 3, and Andy Shea.
Yeah.
Andy Shea as well. Andy Shea and Charlie Toomey, if we'd done this 4 years ago, would both be in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah, and there's an opportunity for Brescia to get back in this. He's been back and recruiting pretty well. It's going to be depending on can UNC actually execute with those recruits in the next year or two.
Yeah. So 3 active national championship winning coaches I do not have on my list. My number 10. So I just named the list. I considered. I went with Ben DeLuca at Delaware. A lot of I mean, again, I consider a lot. I just think within the last couple of years, he's had NCAA tournament appearances, including a quarterfinal appearance in 2022. Obviously, when you go back to his work at Cornell, made it to a Final Four in 2013. Another quarterfinal in 2011. So he's made a Final Four. He's made 3-4 quarterfinal appearances in his time as a head coach, and he's Delaware. Kind of was worth remembering. Delaware had fallen down the pecking order in the CAA when he took over. He took them to the top of the CAA for a couple years there, and almost consistently always a good product that Ben DeLuca puts out there. So I came close when I considered Nadalin the last 2 years, getting Towson back to the tournament. He's obviously got a great track record. Scott Mars come back on the next last couple of years. Alparisi is a good shout. Consider him. So I consider names, but I'm going to go with Ben DeLuca. All right, number 9, I'm going to go with Kevin Warren. Consistent year in, year out. One of the highest floors. Main program Georgetown has. They made the quarterfinals in 3 straight years and 4 of the last 5. And the 1 year they didn't, you probably could argue that was Warren's best team. The 2022 team that went 15-2. Good recruiter, great defenses. I think one of the best at his teams improving throughout the season. Sometimes that can wind up to the detriment of their NCAA tournament seeding. But you rarely see Kevin Warren's teams get worse from February to May. They always improve quite often. So I got Kevin Warren at 9. I have Matt Madeline at 8. A Final Four under his belt. Elite recruiter. One of the best. If this was ranking the recruiters, he'd probably be in the top 5. Talent that he's brought to Princeton. Great offenses. Fills out. Great. Madeline himself. The offense part is mostly Jim Mitchell. Though he has a good deal to that as well. He was a former offensive coordinator. But one thing you can give him goalies. Matt Madeline is one of the best goalie coaches in the country for the goalies that Princeton's had the last couple of years. Eric Peters, John Ficarro, Ryan Croddick. Gotten Princeton back to the upper echelons of the sport, and I think it's going to continue. Number 7, the lowest ranked national championship winning coach on my list. Number 7, I have John Danowski. This is a tough one. I don't think the last couple of years have been Dino's best coaching jobs. I think the 23-22 team missing the tournament was just a flat-out bad coaching job, you could say. Whatever you want to say about Notre Dame that year, Duke really kind of made their own bed. They lost Notre Dame twice that year. Just with that talent. The 24 year with Brian O'Neill this year, that last group losing to Maryland in that game. This year, I didn't think they had a bad season considering the talent overall, but I think kind of highlighted more of the unfortunate of not getting as much out of as they could have that O'Neill class. However, listen, recruiting does still play a part in this, and Duke recruits at an elite level. So there's that balancing act of, well, they don't get enough out of the talent. Well, they do bring the talent in. So now, granted, some of that is that it's Duke. Anyone can kind of recruit. Duke self-recruits himself a bit. It's true. But he recruits at an elite level. And ultimately, it is still hard to look at Duke. They made the Final Four in 2018 and 2019 and 2021 and 2020. That's still a lot of Final Four appearances. So it was hard to drop Dino too much lower. You still have to account, but I think that him being here and not closer to some of his peers in terms of resume and success, accomplishments, to me says somewhat about where I think he's kind of maybe fallen off a little bit. So I have him at 7. That was one that was though kind of tricky to place because we talked about it. It was it's as of 2025. It's not totally track. You could include track record, and we did, but it's not totally there. So I do not 7. The highest ranked coach on my list without a Final Four appearance to his name. I have Dan Chamati at 6. The only thing you could hold against Chamati at this point was kind of big games, an NCAA tournament win, and they got to this year going to North Carolina, beating UNC. And then you could argue that they played Cornell closer than any team in the NCAA tournament. And they came closest to knocking off the Big Red. You could argue that, obviously the Cornell lost the Penn State game, but for 60 minutes, 2 games, no one might have played Cornell closer than Richmond did. And obviously the overwhelming consistency that Dan Chamati has produced. This was a season that was not expected for Richmond to be they were kind of ranked more towards the back of the top. I don't think they were in the top 20 at all. They were in ours, kind of the 19 spot or so. And they went on and made a quarterfinal. I think they're going to have another great year next year. What he gets the most out of his talent, super consistent. I think that all teams are good on both sides of the ball. So I think that Chamati at 6 is a good spot. All right, top 5 time. Number 5, the highest ranked coach on the list who does not have a national championship is Jeff Tambroni. I think that very few coaches get as much out of their talent, or at least have the last 4, 5, 6 years as Tams has. He's obviously made Final Four with the kind of super team, Grant Ament, those guys in 2019. But he's made a Final Four with this group, which didn't exactly blow you away for a lot of the season, but was just kind of pretty consistent and got it done when it mattered in the NCAA tournament. And he's, I think, really kind of taken Penn State from improved at multiple different stages. They obviously got to the first Final Four, kind of growing from where a program outside of the top 20 to being a Final Four team. But now it feels like they've graduated even further to being a program that is, you see this with some of the other Big Ten programs. Hopkins, I think, Ohio State's a great example. But they kind of do the yo-yo a little bit. They'll have 1 or 2 big seasons and they kind of fall off for 2 to 3. And they look kind of like they peak for like one kind of season. Tams, Penn State, they really fell off in 22, but they've now made the tournament 3 straight years. They've made the Final Four 2 of the last 3 and 3 out of the last 6 seasons. So there's consistency they're developing there that's maybe not quite at the Notre Dame, Maryland type level, but definitely maybe right outside there. You go back to his success. He's kind of gotten Penn State really to where he did Cornell in the late 2000s. A team that's in the final mix, top 5, top 10 every season. Great in-game tactician, all finding adjustments. You can never count Penn State out of a game. And so I'm a big fan of Tams. Could have been higher, but I think just the 4 that I'm about to list are all national champions. And that's the one thing that on Jeff Tambroni's resume is still missing. All right, number 4. No one's shot up this list more in the last 12 months, 24 months, 36 months in this guy. He might even continue to go higher. Safe's got him at number 2. I have Connor Busick. A national championship at Cornell that hadn't been done in almost 50 years. Immediately, he's made 2 national championship games the last 4 years. Smart, purely. On the offensive side of the ball, I think they run some of the best offense in the country and have since he's gotten there. Fills out a young staff, kind of similar to him. I think that's a testament to his leadership is that his staff's always been very young. He's the captain of the ship. We'll have to see. The only thing is just kind of long-term track record. In the future, no generational player. No Gavin Adler. Now no CJ Kirst. We'll see if they can continue that success going forward. But it's hard to not feel like he's going to be continue climbing up this list even more in the future. Then it's the top 3. These 3 was pretty easy, but I do think I got Lars at 3. Virginia missing the tournament this year was, I think, a bit of a. I think that did put some, blinders, kind of flashing red. Maybe that kind of flashing red light on a little bit of considering what we thought of Virginia and Lars. think you would have expected them to make the tournament. They're in that kind of tier with like Maryland and Notre Dame, the consistency year in, year out, but they weren't a top 20 team this year. And now going forward, a lot of staff turnover. Lars is the only guy on that staff. I mean, they got Schellenberg, I guess, but Kerwin's gone now. Kip Turner left this year. I think there's some. We'll see. I mean, look, Lars is Lars. His track record speaks to itself, second to none. But he did dip for me. Like, I think if we'd done this before the year, I would have had him at number 2 probably. So it's not a large dip, but kind of worth noting. Corrigan 2. Outside of Maryland, they're the most consistent team in the country. They've missed the tournament once in like the last 15, 16 years. And we all know what that year was. Like they're a top 10, 11, 12 team every year, just every season. And of course now they've peaked at this, what was it? 9 NCAA tournament wins in a row. They lost like 2 games. So for a stretch of the 2 seasons from it there. So they seem to just keep recruiting better with every class. So consistency checks the box, championships checks the box, recruiting checks the box. Very smart out of timeouts, things, tactician there. So I got Corrigan number 2. And the one spot we're all in agreement, I think no surprise, John Tillman number 1. He's the one, you just lock his teams into the Final Four every year. Doesn't matter the personnel, doesn't matter the style of play that I played. Maryland is always there. They've had elite teams, elite talent. They've had good teams, good talent make the Final Four. No one prepares, covers every base from the rules to, to play on the field, quite like Tills. So I got Tills number 1. So DeLuca, Warren, Madeline, Danowski, Chamati, Tams, Busick, Tiffany, Corrigan, Tillman for me. All right. So let's put this together. Any thoughts before we get started about any of our lists? I thought that.
Well, it'll be easy at the top with Tillman at least, so we don't have to debate that. So that's good. 10's going to be the interesting one because we each had 9 of them, 9 coaches on it, but we all disagreed on who to put at 10. But that was kind of the hardest one to do as well, because as I said, I was just saying between Shea and Byrne were my last 2, but I was considering a good 5 or 6 other coaches too.
I think, yeah, it's tough. Shea's got the track record. There's no disputing that. Again, you do this 40 years ago, he's in the top 5. I don't know. It's just Yale was really not good this year. They missed the little tournament the last 2 years. The results are trending negatively. Quarterfinal 2022. Well, I mean, going back, national champion 2018, national championship game 2019, quarterfinals 2022, first round 2023, missed the tournament. Now listen. Obviously, you win the national championship, it's going to go down a little bit, but even within the last 4 years, the trend line is not positive. It is hard leaving out a coach who's won a national championship, but man, just in the defense, it's so hard for me to get past that, especially considering that's Andy Shea's side of the ball too, and that was such a big part of their championship runs was their defense when he built that program. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it does feel, again, even 2 years ago, leaving him out of this would feel wrong, but I just don't think that program's been in it because, I mean, they've fallen from being first, like top in the Ivy to 4th this past year, kind of a distant 4th a little bit. Alberici is another one.
Yeah, that's a tough one with Alberici. I was considering Alberici too, because that's the issue. Army in non-con looks like a national title contender.
Yeah.
And then Patriot League play comes, and then where the hell's Army?
I mean, I remember a couple years ago, I think it was 23, and that year they did make the quarterfinals. When I was doing the pod with Safe, I affectionately, called him the Senator, because he just, the guy just wins every year. Just, re-election campaigns, he's turning out 60%. His is like it's a safe seat, but at some point it does feel like a little bit that it got from like, man, all this guy does is win to, man, this guy wins a lot, but they don't make the tournament as much as it feel like they should. I mean, Army was number 1 in the country last year, and they were in the top 5 this year. They've been in the top 10, or they've fallen out a little bit, but they're in the top 15 of the polls, oftentimes in the top 10. If I went back to each week of the polls in the last 2 years, they probably are in the top 10 80% of the time, 9% of the time, and they haven't made the NCAA tournament. Now, stuff happened to lose games, but there is a track, there is a bit of times a track record of them. They don't play their best. They seem to peak early. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just, is it something to do with the nature of service, being at the service academy? All the other responsibilities, I don't know. Listen, man, Army was a good program. Jack Emmer, obviously, did a very good job there for a long, long time. He took over for him. But, I mean, they recruit well. They win a lot of games. Just feels like they kind of need to win more of the games that. Oh, he's made 4 NCAA tournaments? You've been there since 2006? 3. So you've been there since 2006. You've been there for basically almost 20 seasons and made the tournament 3 times.
Only 3. Jeez.
On paper, Jack Emmer made the tournament the last 3 years he was there. And Jack Emmer was there for 15 years. He made the tournament 5 times. I don't think 3 and 20 is. 3 and 20 feels a little low. It feels like they should be 1 and 4. I mean, within their league, the only 2 programs I'd put above them as far as tradition, resource things, there's probably Loyola and Navy. They're definitely better than Navy. But 3, yeah, I think the thing is 3 just feels light for their.
Yeah, for how they are consistently a top 10 team. That feels like underachieving.
They've won. To go up Safe's point, but sometimes, or the point we have with Ray, sometimes the win total doesn't. They won 9 games in 2008, won the Patriot League regular season title, didn't make the tournament. They won 11 games in 2010, made the quarterfinals. 9 in 2011, 8 in 2013, 9 in 2014, 10 in 2015, 10 in 2016, 12 in 2017. Patriot League regular season title, didn't make the tournament. 13 in 2019, won the Patriot League tournament, made the first round. 2021, they were the last team out. 2022, they went 12-4. 2013, they won 13, lost in the quarterfinals. So he does have 2 quarterfinal runs to his legend. Beat Cuse and Maryland. 2024, 11. And this year, 12. They've won. In their last 5 full seasons, they've won 61 games. They have 2 NCAA tournament appearances out of that. 2 is at 5 is good, but you went 61 games. Here's the way I'll put it. Army, to me, right now, doesn't actually feel that much off of where Loyola was at in the mid-2010s. Take out the championship Loyola season. That obviously was – that team was special. But other than that, I think that their talent levels and their results in the regular season – in the Patriot League, look, this year they won 7-1. Last year, 6-2, 7-1, 6-2. That's pretty kind of up there with it. But Loyola was making the tournament. every year. I mean, they did have Pat Spencer, but I mean, Army's had Brendan Nickturn and Jackson Eicher was a Tour-Time finalist this year. I don't know. Then we got DeLuca. Delaware did fall off this season. The last season in the CAA, they were 7-6. They actually missed the CAA tournament this year. I mean, that run 21 to 23. They won 10, 13, 13, quarterfinal, first round. Then you have the Cornell results as well. You also got Madeline we could think about. Bresci, too.
I think we could put Alberici at 10 compared to DeLuca, but because again, I think the level, the degree of difficulty is a little bit higher at Army too. So
in Delaware, oh,
I don't know. Yeah, but that's the thing. DeLuca making the quarterfinal more recently than Army's made the quarterfinal.
Army's was 23 to 22. DeLuca's got another. Then DeLuca made it in 23 as well.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Delaware, Schillingwald did really good at Delaware, but they hadn't made the tournament since 2012 before DeLuca got there. DeLuca does have a Final Four. Granted, it did come to Cornell, but nonetheless.
Do we say coffees for closers for DeLuca?
We can go with Ben. I was going to say Ben or Gate.
What are you saying, Safe?
So we can go with Ben just to because we're crossing out Shea. I can see Joe's shortcomings. Unless we're going to go with Gate at 10, I'm fine with Ben.
No, I wouldn't go with
Gate.
If he makes another one, if he makes another Final Four, then yeah, maybe. But I wouldn't go there yet.
Yeah, and look, I'm a Cuse guy, but he still has to have another blockbuster recruiting class to go with this year's current junior class.
A lot of that was Desco's recruiting class too. Nothing against it. Look, it's his players. I'm just
but he's a good recruiter, but not an elite recruiter yet. So that's still a little bit.
I think he's done some good things, but I think if he swapped places with some of the other guys on this list, they did beat Princeton, which is fair, but I don't know. I think Madeline rebuilding Princeton is a little more impressive.
I would say only 3 coaches here are constituted right now. Maybe 4 could leave where they're going and to replicate their success at a whole different school. So,
how many did you say?
I would give that to Ben as a reason to give him the nod because he did what he did at Cornell, and then being able to kind of punch, above his weight class at Delaware, that 2022, Georgetown job.
So this isn't.
Because I don't see anybody else at 10. We're crossing out Gate, crossing out Shea, and I'm going to take take my nomination down for Joe. Ben seems to be
Madeline's decent, but Madeline did have some rough years in there recently.
Madeline?
Madeline, yeah. Madeline.
Oh, Madeline. Oh, Sean, yeah. Let's see. Madeline, Mar, Ben. I mean,
those are all kind of in the same spot. Madeline they all made Final Fours too.
That's what I'm saying. I give Ben the credit for doing that at 2 places. I mean, he hasn't taken Delaware to a Final Four, but
quarterfinal. Quarterfinal. That's fair. Yeah, I will say this: this isn't necessarily the right way of doing it because recruiting does absolutely have to matter. If we just did a draft, all right, we're releasing every coach and we're releasing all the players, and we're just going to evenly distribute them we're going to take all the coaches in the country and we're going to evenly distribute the talent across the country to each team. And you get them in like fall, and it's like, all right, go. Who is, and like to your point, Save, if you did it that way, how many of these guys are you like banking on making the Final Four? Tills. Other than that, I'm not sure. But like there are certain coaches where I'd be like if you just totally randomized all of it, I'm pretty sure Jeff Tambroni has a really good team.
I was going to say that, Jeff.
So Corrigan probably has a pretty darn good team. I don't know that it's his Notre Dame teams, but
yes, that's it. I don't think he could. I think it's like he's on another level because what he built at Notre Dame and Notre Dame being Notre Dame, like this kind of sui generis institution in athletics, college athletic sports. Like
I think he could figure out like how to put together a really good team.
I think what Warren did at Georgetown, I think what he did at Notre Dame is, Corrigan specific, like because he's been there for so long and the different conferences, the team. Right?
The thing with Warren is, and this is why, and we'll get into these next names we have. Was Warren 9 on all of our lists?
I think 8 on mine, 9.
9, yeah.
I think Madeline should get the bump for the Final Four.
Yeah, Madeline, Jake, you split the uprights on Madeline. I had 7, Safe had 9, you had 8. So
I think Warren would be 9. I love Kevin Warren.
Yeah, Kevin Warren, I think at 9 is a very solid point. I think Hoyas just need a little bit more postseason success for him to be ranked higher, but he's done a very, very good job there in DC. So I think 9 is a very solid spot for him.
Like you can't rank them like lower than 8 in any season at this point because they're probably gonna make the quarterfinals.
That's why I put him 8. I was like, he's always 8. He's always going to be in the quarterfinal.
That's fair.
And I gave him just a little bit of edge than Madeline. Just I love that. Yeah, I mean, I championed his pick when Princeton chose him. I just feel like Georgetown is like it's a school. But it's not like it doesn't have the prestige of Princeton in Lacrosse run. Ulrich had a nice run there, but it wasn't like Final Fours and titles and everything down at at Georgetown. Like I thought, and he's always 8. Like he's always going to make the quarterfinals. I feel like maybe that's his like Sisyphus like life. Like he won't be able to get the Final Four, but I think eventually he'll get in there. Madeline, I give him all the props, and he's local for me, so I'm fine with putting him at 8 and Warren at 9. I think they're pretty much right there each other.
I think you're right about Princeton's history with tyranny, like all that. I just think remember in 2016 how far away all that felt.
Yeah, we were having discussions. Like Jake was literally logged off on a podcast one time because I suggested that Princeton might be a dark horse of some sort. Like at that point, like Princeton was done and dusted. They were like, I don't know what's another good equivalent, like USC football in the early 2010s or something.
Princeton, in the 2010s, Princeton did not win a single NCAA tournament game. Now Madeline was there for the last 3 years of that, but Bates made 2 tournaments and did not win an NCAA tournament game. And also I think it's worth because of what had happened there. I do think there was a feeling of like it was just Bill tyranny. It was Princeton was because Denver kind of took Princeton's place within the
hierarchy,
echelons of pecking order. So it sort of kind of felt like, all right, well, that's just they were the team that Bill Tierney coached for a period of time. I mean, obviously it was 6 titles, but from 08 to 2021, and I mean, I won't count 08 to 19, 12 years. They won 1 NCAA tournament game. They went 15 years without making a Final Four. Now, there are other schools that have had kind of Cuse had a similar run to that, but Princeton was off the radar in some ways. Just like some of Bates' seasons, 4-8, 9-6, 7-6. Bates and Madeline 2016, 5-8, 9-6, 8-5, 7-7. I remember when they beat Virginia in 2020. They're like, that was like, oh my God. I think the title of the pod we did, I was like, Princeton actually did the thing. Like, it felt sizable that they were finally back in the mix. So I agree that Princeton because even Georgetown had kind of fallen off from the peak Uric years by the time Warren took over. I agree that obviously the history of the two programs is different. I think Madeline has now managed to kind of utilize that again, capitalize on that. But I think they're both in similar positions. Like, I think they both took over programs that had a lot of success. Again, Princeton's is different. There's no question. That had kind of fallen off a little bit. They both are super consistent. Madeline's made 4 straight tournaments. Warren's made 7. I just think that the Final Four to me is just the difference. Madeline made a Final Four and Warren did.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and Chamati, do we want to place at 7 or 8 for Chamati?
I would do Madeline 7.
Chamati 8. Because
Chamati
is another interesting case because that's a lot of program building with what he's done with Richmond.
7. So we're at 7. So Ryan had Madeline 7, Chamati 8. Safe had Chamati 7. I had Chamati 6 ahead of Dino. I had him ahead of Dino. Chamati's another guy, and like what I just talked about. If you just if you just randomized the rosters, you just said take on foe. I think Dan Chamati would have an NCAA tournament team, no question about it. I think Dan Chamati is some of these I think with some coaches you kind of wonder, could they elevate? I think if you put Dan Chamati in charge of one of these ACC schools, I think I have a really hard time seeing him not make Final Fours. That's, I think he's pretty darn great. The Dino thing is, how much do you kind of put in, I guess, recruiting and. All right, here we'll do this. Here's how we'll do it. The last 5 years, Duke has made a national championship game, another Final Four, 4 NCAA tournaments out of 5 years. So 5 years, they made 4 NCAA tournaments. They made 2 Final Fours. One of those was a national championship game. If I put Dan Chamati on the sidelines instead in these last 5 years, same roster, Dan Chamati's there instead. Does Duke win a national championship?
You suggesting something in the near future when Danowski's hitting the retirement papers?
I was not intentionally suggesting that, but I mean,
because that could be something to keep an eye.
Everyone who's a fan of the sport kind of is aware of that potentiality. Would Duke have won a national championship in the last 5 years if Dan Chamati was their coach? Now,
I guess the flip coin to that is Chamati getting the same players Danowski's bringing in, or is that more so the Duke name? Because I think it's a little bit of column A, column B, column C. That's what makes it a little bit of a tough one to debate.
I don't think that
if Chamati had more of those regular season wins, I'd be more in your camp, Jay. I think.
Okay. Oh, I hear that.
Because we kind of like nice guy, always kind of finishing second, never closing time. That kind of was the thing about them for a bit. And I think with Dano, I think you said it right at the top before when we were talking, yeah, we were I know, I not to nitpick your thing, but he's at 5. But if we expanded it to 7, now they got 4 Final Fours, 2 NCAA tournament runner-ups. It's just but I'm at fault of it too, as much as anybody. It's sometimes going harder on Duke, expecting more, and it was like, I remember we said
that is fair, but
after the Final Four run, we were like, oh yeah, they did just make the Final Four.
Yeah, that's the thing. It is fair that you expect Duke to do more with what they've got, but you also can't lose sight of the forest for the trees of the fact that Duke's still fairly consistently making Final Fours. As disappointing as they are, they're still having some success going on here.
Well,
so that's what kind of compounds it a bit.
That's why I don't knock Dino out of like the top 10, because ultimately still make Final Fours. However, who's had better rosters than them in that time frame?
That's the thing. Not when one was Brennan.
ASO.
But I think that's also what compounds it, though, is that Danowski, as a recruiter,
yes,
because he brought in guys that it's not just a Duke. Remember, he had Hofstra as a undefeated team or one-loss team in the 2000s.
Yeah, no.
Before he left for Duke in 2006. He built a borderline juggernaut with Hofstra.
If Dano had Chamati on staff as an associate, they would have had 3 titles over the last that period, that 6-7 year period.
So that's I think kind of what we got away here is Danowski losing his fastball with the coaching end and not getting as much as he gets out of it. But at the same token, he's still recruiting that top tier talent. So I think that's the challenging question with Danowski. And I had a hard time grappling with it too, because I asked when we were putting together these lists, well, if it's overall body of work, Danowski is going to be no lower than 3. If we're talking about how it is right now with trajectory of the programs, Danowski is going to be at the bottom end. If you weigh it all together, you kind of have him in the middle. So that's the really complicated thing when we're arguing this with Danowski at this point.
So I think that if Chamati is the head coach instead of Danowski, they don't recruit as well. I mean, you can't really recruit better than Dino recruits. I don't think they recruit as well. The question is the drop-off in recruiting compensated for by the improvement of on the field, maximizing the talent? And I'm not sure that it isn't. However, Chamati has not made a Final Four. Now, granted, listen, Richmond's been a program for 12 years. And
Chamati's been the guy who built that program from the ground up. And the teams that they're losing to in the quarterfinals are really good teams. They gave Cornell the toughest run of the money for the whole tournament.
Now, you could flip side that and be like, hey, a guy like Scott Marr, Sean Allen did make the Final Four. In Marr's case, though, listen, I think Scott Marr's an excellent coach. I think if Dan Chamati had Connor Fields, he probably would have made a Final Four. If you put Connor Fields on this year's Richmond team, I think they'd probably make the Final Four.
Here's one for you, Jake. Let's throw one right back at you. Did Chamati reach peak Dano?
No.
If he gets there in 07, the Chamati that we know now, there's 4 runner-ups, 3 titles, 12 NCAA Final Fours from 2007 to. We don't even need to go to today. If we just did 2007 to 2023, I mean,
Dino is one of the.
You're not touching that.
No, I'm not saying you are. But the question is 2020 right now, today.
That's the thing. This is a 2025.
But that's why Brian's right. Dino almost. I don't mean to say this as the backhanded compliment, but all that success that he had, he's able to dine out on that and still recruit because of that. I think, and 100%. I don't think Chamati can get that level unless he replicates that. He's got to go 12 Final Fours, to get that aura. The Dano still has aura, even if we're downplaying his recent success. And I think Hopkins, I would love the last 7 years of Duke.
I think Dino is probably a top 5 coach of all time. I'm not, I mean, Tierney's better and maybe Simmons Jr. is better, and Desco did win 5 freaking titles in a decade. Hard to forget that. Stars was in there too, but look, Dino, when Duke was Duke, it was just an onslaught. It was never ending. He had a run. He had a run still. I don't think anyone's matched. They made 8 straight Final Fours. Even Tillman, I think, maxed out at 5. So, no, he's. I think it's just I can concede if I'm about 2-1.
Let's give the king his due. Let's give him 6. Maybe last year we give him 6. If Shimano does another one next year and you got another down year, maybe we revisit this. But
all right.
And I guess that makes Tambroni. We'll lock him in at 5 then.
Yeah, because we have him outside the.
Yeah, because I feel like Tambroni we've seen especially in the past 3 years or so, has gotten even more out of these Penn State programs. And a matter of this one is just it's a matter of finally winning the big one in terms of a semifinal or a national championship before we could really, really put him on the upper echelon. But I think he's improved his standing in recent years with what he's been able to make Penn State do consistently, not just having these flashes, like you said, with compared to like a Nick Myers at Ohio State, where having these flashes, okay, here's a Final Four team, and then, well, they're in the wilderness for 3 or 4 years. Now we're seeing consistency out of Penn State. They're consistently making quarterfinals. They're making Final Fours every, 2 times every 5 years or so. If it weren't for the COVID year, could have been 3 out of 6. So
it would have been 4. Count the COVID year, they made 3 since 2019. COVID would have been 4.
Yeah, it would have been 4 out of 7. Yeah. So I think that level of consistency has made him get the best of the one. Has solidified his spot as best coach not to win the national title. I think at this point it's just a matter of him finally winning the big game come Memorial Day weekend. But he's solidifying his spot as that in that upper echelon of coaching. And I think, especially with the coaching job he did this year, was probably one of the best he's ever. I think his best coaching job in his tenure in Penn State. Plus, kind of like DeLuca, what he did at Cornell, what he's doing at Penn State. Hard to argue against that.
It's either this one or the 23 one where they went from 3 wins to making the Final Four. Yeah, I think the only thing Tams doesn't have is a national title. Like,
do we give him a little bit of a boost? It's tough to say above Lars, and I don't want to nitpick after. I only thing I'll give with Tams is that because you can give Lars credit for getting Final Four at 2 schools. The level of success at 2 schools, I don't think he could touch. He's got the 2 rings. He's got the titles. I was going to say,
as
Final
much
Four, runner-up, a Final Four at Cornell, now 3 Final Fours at Penn State. That's
longevity. I think the only reason why you don't put him again above Lars, and I know things look a bit concerning at Virginia right now, but you're just a year removed from them making a Final Four, and they've made all but 2 Final Fours since 2019.
Tams has made one more Final Four than Lars, and Lars has 2 more.
In a whole career, though, right?
Yes, Tams has 6, and Lars has got 4 at Virginia, right? I want to say, or 3. No, 4. Yeah, because they lost in the
2019, 2021, 23, and 24.
So that's 4, plus the one at Brown. That's 5.
Yeah.
And Tams has got 3 at Cornell and 3 at Penn State. So 6-5, but 2 titles is. Yeah, 2 titles is 2 titles. I can't. No, listen. Like even if you
we did champion against one of them for 6 seasons. The asterisk title. I'm just sure.
Now, no, if you're asking me even Virginia's Final Four last year, it is fair to point out they lost 4 games before the NCAA tournament in a row. Virginia, what was Virginia? Virginia and this is where Lars is. It was a little bit trick, not like just a little bit. Because Virginia's 6-8 this year, and they were 2-5 in their last 7 games last year. So that's 8-13 in the last 21 games for Virginia. That's about a season and a half. I think that does make you reconsider Lars a little bit within this top echelon. Just because I think prior to this season, we had the perception of Lars like, well, it's Maryland, Virginia. You just can't look past them. Like there was that run there for where they'd only lost the tournament to the only times they missed the tournament like prior to the Final Four was to each other. They're like 4 or 5 years. So like in the Final Four, they lost to each other. And like 24 Maryland ends Virginia season, 22 Maryland ends Virginia season, 21 Virginia and the Maryland season, 2019 Virginia and Maryland. Like they had that run there for a while, and there was the feeling of these are. You just can't count them out. You got to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maryland kept that going through that kind of tough patch of 23 and 24. Virginia didn't do that this year. They missed the NCAA tournament. Obviously, they lost a lot, but there was still a feeling, I think, going in, even what they lost, of what's Virginia and it's Lars. I think that feeling has maybe dipped a little bit, but I still can't. He's got 2 national titles. There's 4 coaches who have multiple national titles, and I think you could say all 4 of them feel like they're still within their – 3 of the 4 feel like they're within their prime. Dino feels like he's maybe aged out of it. And in fairness, like Lars has won 2, Corrigan's won 2, and Tillman's won 2, all within the last 10 years. They've won 6 of the last 8 national titles between the 3 of them. So Dukes are a little bit, further. So that's the only reason. Okay, move out of it. So do we put Busick 4? Or say if you had Busick 2. I mean, listen, he definitely moved into my. I would have before the year. I would have had it.
Is it young Tillman?
I would have gone Tills, Lars, Corrigan, Tams before the season. I don't know where I would have had Busick. I probably would have had him close to Madeline, to be honest with you. In that 7, 8, 9 range, winning a national championship the way they did, 15-1 or 16, whatever it was.
So wait, so we have Tams as 5, and I'd go Lars 4. I'm fine kind of Busick in the top 3. I don't know how because I'm like that. I think I had different reasons for different coaches, but for Connor and Tillman, definitely I was like, if Milliman left right now, who do I want as a head coach of Johns Hopkins right now? John Tillman, just for the consistency of excellence, just like he is. We used to say that where it's like 2 coaches, but really it may end up just being Tillman. We kind of say like, what's the standard? But even if it doesn't win every single title there, but the second one would be Connor, because I got youth, I got winning, I got 2 Final Fours, and
Final Fours in 4 years is what's putting him. The only thing that I kind of want to see is how does he follow this up with recruiting? Because a lot of the success is still from Milliman's recruiting classes.
And not even that to me, but also not even because he did have a hand in the recruiting with Milliman.
Because he was part of the staff, so it's not entirely all him. It's not a John Gruden taking over for Dungy, Tony Dungy.
My thing is,
I give him credit for he may not have been the main reason Kurtz got there, because Milliman was the head coach at the time, but Kurtz was just a freshman, right? His first
and
year.
He had to develop him.
That's my point. He developed him into the best player in the country and the number 1 pick. Like I think that if anything, that's going to increase his ability to recruit. But
I think he can. No, I think he can recruit. I'm just saying that if you were to ask me to CJ Kurtz and Gavin Adler are 100 out of 100, 100th percentile outcomes. You can have great players. He could never have any players ever again as good as CJ Kurtz and Gavin Adler. In the last 4 years, he had a generational player on one side of the ball every season. for 3 of those seasons, he had it on both sides of the ball. So, and that's not to say I don't think he won't continue the success. But I think those guys were like different cut of,
Yeah,
he'll have great players. He'll have 5 stars, and I mean Ryan Goldstein, like he could be a, but like
because
Adler, like.
I think the case here is he looks already like he's gonna be a top tier coach for a long time to come. Yeah. It's just that I think in his case we need just a little bit more sample size. I know that's crazy to say about a guy who just won the national championship.
Yeah, we're talking
in terms
of talking about like 1 through 4.
Yeah,
like, we're not saying he sucks.
I think that's the only thing is I just want to see a little bit on the long-term side. That's why I had him at 4. But I mean, he's already proven himself that he's one of the best minds in the game, and it's going to be fun to see where he gets him from here.
4 is crazy for a guy who's been coaching for 4 years.
4 years, yeah. 4 years with a 50% Final Four hit rate.
Like it's just I don't. We'll see. And look,
he's 30, and he's 33, I think.
That's what I'm saying. He has 1 less title than Lars Tiffany, and he's got 25 years to get to Lars' age to get that second one.
No,
he's only 1 behind Tillman.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, I mean, that shows how hard not. Look, I think what that shows you though is he could never win another national title in his career. Now, to me, that doesn't say he's not a great coach. It's just.
It's hard to win. Yeah.
Kevin Corrigan went 35 years before winning a national title. No, I see your point of view. Say, if you're asking me to pick coaches for the next 10 years, he'd be number 2. I'm saying the way I looked at it was right now.
That's what I'm saying. I'm using his youth as a weapon. I'd be like, yeah, I want him right now because he is the best coach right now because he won this. I'd
take him over. I mean, I'd still if you're asking me 10 years, I'm still taking Tillman.
Outside of that's why Tillman's number 1 on mine. But it's like everybody else right now, I'm taking Connor, and I love Corrigan and Lars, his personalities and his coaches. But right now, age a little bit with Corrigan, and can he do it at another school outside of Notre Dame? I think it's just like what he's built at Notre Dame's almost like he, started the program kind of like Jamon. That's what I'm saying. Just I'll hear you, Jake. I'll go. Let's have Connor at 4, just to achieve the gods. We don't want to. We don't want to tempt the gods.
So we'll put Lars at 3 then, given what we discussed with Lars.
Yeah, I think Corrigan's.
I'm fine. Yeah,
I think
Corrigan number 2.
Corrigan's found that in other gear this decade.
Yeah, they went back.
I do feel bad for them because it's like the fall off of like potentially 3 times winner in a row, and then.
Oh yeah,
back to back is bad, but it's just like you almost like fall back. Like
no, I do think I think they will look at this. I mean, it's a little different because it was still the quarterfinal, so you still had to win 2 more games after that. And the way Cornell went through the tournament, I honestly don't think anybody was beating them. I think they would have beat Notre Dame too. But I do think there will be a little bit for them of like
could at least make another Final Four without that.
Not even that, but like when are you ever going to get a shot at 3 in a row?
Yeah, that's insane.
And again, you mentioned the age portion of it for Corrigan. I mean, look, he looks youthful as ever, but
I love their hair. We love their hair.
50. So he's 67, I think.
Yeah, I think he's
getting to
7 now.
I think again when we're looking at it,
isn't the best thing about Corrigan? Like everything that we find is like. Either born on this day or this year or this year. We don't really know. That's Wikipedia said that.
Like Dino is 70. Dino's 71, and it looks like it could be in the next couple of years. And Tierney retired at 71. So that's not the point. I'm just saying
this is what we're looking at now. Obviously, 5 years from now.
Yeah, but if you consider that he's only got probably 5 more cracks at it. Everyone feels more magnified. Everyone feels like, man, especially because no more Kavanaughs. This year they have to replace their entire attack unit.
No more super teams.
Yeah, so like again, it's not to say listen.
Yeah, but at the same token, because of those runs with the Kavanaughs, they've created this cash for the recruiting class. They've intertwined it with, we've talked all about it. They've intertwined it with the Notre Dame football program that's now making the college football playoff on a consistent basis too. So you put 2 and 2 together, Corrigan's built that into something that can sustain itself a bit further in the future too.
It's a glamour program. It's like,
but I mean, it's not just because it's Notre Dame. I mean, there's other Notre Dame athletic programs that are in the wilderness. The men's basketball program has done it.
He elevated it to a glamour program. In sport.
He got it to be for like with what he's done, the winning, the fan support that they've engendered. You see the games and the mainstream. I mean, they've kind of crossed over, been the mainstream a little bit. I mean, they're probably the biggest brand name in the sport. I would venture to say. So yeah, what he's done this decade's pretty spectacular. So yeah, I think Lars 3, Corrigan 2, Tillman 1. The only thing you can hold against John Tillman is he's only won 2 national titles. Like, which, by the way, there's only one coach who's won more, who has 3, and he hasn't won one in the last 10 years. It's like when the only thing you can hold against the guy is that he's won 2 national titles.
If you've got a program to be an auto Final Four pick every single year, you're number one. It's as simple as that.
He's like Dean Smith. Like Dean Smith only won 2 national titles. Yeah, he made the Final Four like 15 times though. No, it's the repeated success, and again, it's just the range of outcomes. I think I refer to it like this. If I told you John Tillman is going to have the number 1 team in the country, what's probably going to happen? He's probably going to win the national title. Okay, if I told you John Tillman's going to have the number 10 team in the country, what's probably going to happen? Oh, he'll probably make the Final Four. Like he's the only coach you can say that about. Any of these other coaches say if they have the number 1 team in the country, will they make the final? Will they win the title? Yeah, there's a couple of these. If they have the number 10 team, will they make the Final Four? No. And listen, man, he's 2 goals from having like 4 titles. He's 16, 21. So yeah, I think he was the easy part of the list. And again, I don't know how many more. I don't know how many more will win. He might win none, but he's probably got another 15 years left in him. And considering his track record, that means a lot of bites at the apple. All right, that's a good question. How many does he finish with?
5. I think he ties Deska.
Wow.
I think
I'll go 4.
I'll go conservative 4, only because I think
it's just hard, man.
Yeah, it's hard, and I think you got, even though it's contained less conferences, I think you got more seats at the table with your ACC's, Big Ten's, Ivy Leagues now. Now that Cornell's entered the table, Princeton's chomping at the bit to get back at the table. Syracuse is chomping back to get back at the table. Notre Dame got themselves into the table. Duke and UNC, we'll see what goes on with their coaching. Penn State's chomping at the bit to get at the table. All it takes is one big donor at one of these Big Ten schools to say, you know what, we're going all in on men's lacrosse.
Syracuse. I mean, we didn't even mention Syracuse and Hopkins, and like those are still programs you have to,
Yeah.
When it gets right at those schools, it can get going.
It gets right, yeah. So, yeah, I think, look, Maryland's going to win another title in the next 3 seasons, I think. But it's just a matter of who's at the table at any given time. Because when you get one of those programs where it becomes a runaway train, you saw Notre Dame, for 2 seasons do that. You saw, you saw some other programs be at it. Like, look, all it's going to take for Penn State is that one title, and then I could see them pulling off multiple ones.
He's been there 15 years. He's won 2. I think 2 in another 15 years feels right. Now, listen, again, with the rate that they make the championship game, could it won if they just start like?
Yeah, you got to think the numbers luck might improve a bit too. So that's why I say I'll be conservative and say 4.
I think 4 feels right. Desco winning 5 and 10 was pretty. I mean, Tierney won 6 and 10, and well, that's Bill Tierney. He's best. Desco winning 5 and that kind of like. The other thing with Desco was he didn't get that much worse in the 2010s. Towards the end, it did tail off. But you go look at Syracuse's NCAA tournament seeds in a lot of those years. They're still the top 2 seed, like every
2-1, 15-1 seasons, 14-2 seasons. Yeah,
like it didn't like dramatically. I know Syracuse fans, it felt that way because they were winning 5 titles in 10 years. It didn't fall off like overnight.
Yeah, when I was there, they were 2 seed, 1 seed, unseeded, but actually a good coaching job to get that unseeded tournament bid. 1 seed.
Dude, from 2010 to 2017.
2015, 1 seed.
2 seed.
2 seed, yeah, Duke was it. 2 seed in 2014.
They were a 1 or 2 seed 6 out of 8 years from 2010 to 2017.
It was just the NCAA tournament success, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, what if they beat Maryland in 2011 in that overtime game? They probably win the title that year.
They win the title that year, yeah. 2013, if Brendan Fowler is not at the face-off X, they probably win that game running away.
Yeah, like, so 2015, that 2015 team that lost to Hopkins in that quarterfinal.
Yeah, if they get off to a good start in that Hopkins game.
That team could have won the title, 100%. So that just shows you, man. It can change. Look at Duke. We talk about Duke still made 4 Final Fours in the last 10 years or so. Just hadn't resulted in titles. So, all right, our top 10 officially. Stamp it. 2025. Ben DeLuca 10, Kevin Warren 9, Matt Madeline 8, Dan Chamati 7, John Donowski 6, Jeff Timberlake 5, Connor Busick 4, Lars Tiffany 3, Kevin Corrigan 2, John Tillman number 1.
Good off-season stuff.
All right. Here is your miss. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, so speaking of which, if you liked hearing that and you liked our list, why don't you head on over to YouTube, subscribe to our channel, like our other videos, subscribe
like this
to this
video.
Podcast. Yes, yeah, smash that like button on this. And remind me, Jake, in the morning I'll whip up I'll try to get the thumbnail, and I got a lot of packing to do tomorrow. But
101 subscribers.
Yes, over the 100 subscriber mark. Thank you,
guys. Also subscribe to the podcast too, and follow us on Twitter at college_cross. So Jake, yes, your next segment before I did my shameless plugging.
And what you can do is leave a comment on this either on the video on YouTube. Underneath the video on YouTube, you can leave a comment, or on Twitter, you can DM us or you can add us. Give us, if you like this topic, this kind of off-season conversation, give us our next podcast topic.
Ooh.
It could be about a specific team. Hey, what do we think about this team going into 2026? It could be about something with where the sport's going, rules or whatever it might be, or it could be an old type. It could be something more evergreen. If you want us to take a look back at an old season or team or game, whatever it might be.
Seasons, the return.
So whatever you have on your mind with lacrosse right now in the middle of summer 2025, if you want to hear us talk about it, we'll do it. Just hit us up. Either drop a comment on YouTube, give us a reply.
Yeah. Do you want us to cosplay as if we're doing a regular weekly episode of a random NCAA tournament round of a past year from before 2016? That's
a good idea. If you want to, we could do a watch along on Twitter of an old game, or on YouTube rather. If you want to, suggest us a game to watch, we'll do that. If we can find it, probably has to be within the last 10 years, but we can give it a shot. There's some older ones as well. So whatever you like, throw us a line, and we'll tackle it on our next show, probably in about 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, I'm gone for the next 2 weeks, so when I get back,
probably end of July. All right, folks. For Brian, Safe, myself, your 3 foremost conversational lacrosse content analysts in the Mid-Atlantic area. Stay hydrated out there.
Yeah, it is going to be hot. Stay hydrated. Very muggy out.
Drink some water. Love water.
Yeah.
Becky Lynch for president, and we'll see you out there.